Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board meeting of April 15th, 2025. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, and Mr. Copstein, could you please lead us out? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could remain standing for a moment of silence. In today's moment of silence, I would like us to keep the families of Lion Sharif Rashett and former town employee Stuart Glass in mind, as both passed last week, and both were very important members of our community. Thank you. All right, we'll start with introductions. To my right,
Good evening, Diana Quast, Town Clerk.
Good evening, Luciana Howard, Councilwoman.
Supervisor Ed Lachterman.
Good evening, Patrick Murphy, Councilman.
Susan Siegel, Town Councilwoman.
Adam Rodriguez, Town Attorney.
Dave Paganelli, Highway Superintendent.
Great, thank you. For reports for the town, had some great events this past week. We had the Shrub Oak Little League Parade, and more important, at the end of it, there was a dedication of the old mud field to Steve Rosen. It's now the Steve Rosen Field, and Steve gave many, many years of his service to the Shrub Oak Athletic Club. I believe 40 years of service, 25 as president. So we thank Steve for all that service, and it was a well-deserved honor. The Lions also had their Easter egg hunt. The rain held out for them on the lower fields of Downing, along with the Parks and Recreation Department. On Sunday of the 6th, YVAC celebrated 62 years in their anniversary brunch, and it was a pleasure to be there. It was nice to see the people recognized for their service to our community. This past Saturday had a couple things. We had two openings. We had Michaels have their grand opening, and Exclusive Cuts moved their location and had their grand opening for that. They're now located at the old Padavani building, which is sort of to the left of the diner and behind 7-Eleven. Squished in between that, we had a seniors breakfast at Beaver Ridge, and that was with the Youth Advisory Council, and it was amazing to see the youth interacting with the seniors, and that was really pushed by one of the members, Jillian, who's a junior in high school, and she really wanted to try to build that community and that recognition. So we were thrilled to be there for that. A couple things coming up, a few that are very important. Of course, Earth Day is coming up on April 22nd. We always have the Battle of Yorktown centered around that, which will be on April 26th this year. We will have on the 25th Arbor Day right here, starting at 3:30. We'll have the contest for the second and third graders, I believe it is. And then we'll have an Arbor Day ceremony and celebration outside, weather permitting, with refreshments and hopefully some saplings that you can take home. On the 26th, it is a busy day. We have the Nostro Mercato di Yorktown, which is with the Yorktown Friends of Yorktown Parks and Recreation and the Small Business Association. It's sort of like a flea market sale. So they'll be doing that at the Capolini Center or the Community Center, however you look at it, or the old 6th grade school. And that'll be an all-day event in the gymnasium. And the Hudson Valley Gateway Chamber of Commerce is going to have the Chamber Spring Show on the 26th at the JV Mall from 11 to 4. They'll have plenty of vendors. I believe they're going to have an auto show again this year, and it's always a great day there for that. We will have our annual Yorktown Holocaust Remembrance event here, May 1st at 6 p.m. in Town Hall. Our speaker is a survivor, Sonja Geismer. Sonia was a passenger on the steamship St. Louis, which was they had a lot of trouble finding someone to accept them. One of the darker marks on history where we took people from a war zone that were being persecuted and murdered by the millions, and did not let them land. It started in Cuba and came across to the States. But she'll be sharing her story about being on that ship. We will have the mobile shredder the next day at the mall, and that runs from 10 to 1. So each resident is allowed to bring up to 4 file-sized boxes of paper for shredding, and that is a service that the county comes up, and our refuse and recycling department handles that arrangement. And you will also be able to, that same day, drop off your electronics, textiles, and paint at our refuse and recycling center. Actually, they usually set up in front of the police station, but I did not find the exact location this year. It's either in front of the PD or they have you drive around to the back. The nice thing about the paint recycle that we started last year is that you do not have to fill your cans with sand. You could just bring it, if it's in the original can, you could bring the paint as is, and they will take it, and it gets recycled through the town.
The last couple collections that have been behind.
They've been behind, yes. I know you and I were lugging cans of paint. It was extremely successful and tiring because I think the first time we filled up 4 bins with paint. It was amazing, the return on it. And then just a couple of things to look forward for. We're going to have a few grand openings coming up, probably in the time between here and our next meeting. Miraggio's will be reopening with Par, the original owner. They're looking for a date of the 21st. And then there's Mr. Chicken and Ms. Dim Sum, which is on Keir Street, and they're looking for a May 1st opening. And that's it for me. Susan, you want to?
Okay, I have just a few quick items. One, I just want to remind people that the Conservation Board does need volunteers. This is an important board in Yorktown. They review all types of development proposals to see how they fit in with the environment, and they make recommendations to both the town board and the planning board. The group meets on Wednesdays, once or twice a month, depending upon the agenda. You do not have to be an expert, an environmental expert or biologist or an environmentalist by training. You just have to be committed to preserving the environment. And yes, it is a special interest group, but we have different special interest groups in Yorktown. So I urge you, if you're interested, to please submit a resume to the supervisor's office on that. I think I'm going to ask the supervisor to give you an update on the status of some sewer funding that we thought we received in the past, but we haven't. I'll defer to the supervisor on that. That involves the Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension and where we are with that. Also, I think you'll hear later on an issue that I've been concerned about, the creation of the Peekskill Operation and Maintenance District, and I think that will be on the agenda. It's not on the printed agenda, but it'll be an addition that we will talk about. But I also want to mention that I think you know that I've always been a strong supporter of open meetings. And we had some interesting discussions upstairs at between 6:30 and before we came down here at 7:30 today. Some of those issues just dealt with how the town board was going to proceed with certain issues on the Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension, and also how we're going to handle the water, the Peekskill, creation of the Peekskill Operation and Sewer Maintenance District, which I talked about at the last meeting. I let those meetings proceed, even though we were in a closed session. They should have been in an open session. These are issues that didn't have to be discussed on the agenda, but they should have been open to the public. And I've asked the supervisor that as we go forward, okay, that we can still meet between 6:30 and 7:30 to discuss certain procedural issues, but that the public is invited if they choose to attend. These are not agenda items, but the public, anyone who wants to come there, should be able to come and to listen. No comments, but just to listen to how the board is discussing what issues do we want to deal with that don't necessarily have to be listed on the agenda. And I hope that the board will consider this going forward, because I don't want to have to make issues all the time about what's open and what's a closed session, because we did discuss a legitimate closed session item. Personnel is a legitimate closed session item, and there are reasons where we have to discuss things in closed session. But sometimes there's a gray line, and I think we did cross that gray line today. And I have to apologize to the public, but I hope that as we discuss those items on the agenda later tonight, that the issues will come out. Thank you.
All right, well, just the gray line that, Susan, you've been talking about, we crossed that gray line because it's your issue that you were so adamant about. And you even said it in the meeting. So you can't say that we crossed the gray line when you did it, okay? And you're the one that's always talking about open discussions. You can't have it both ways, okay? No, I'm talking, please, okay? And you're the one that crossed it or made it a gray, and you were the one, it's your item, and you said, we're going to cross it because I want to talk about it, okay? End of story on that. So I just want to piggyback what Ed did over at Beaver Ridge. So Beaver Ridge, they had a great breakfast there, and we sat down. We talked to a bunch of the seniors, and they were sitting there. The one thing they had in common is they love that place. So I just want to give a shout out to Beaver Ridge. It was so nice, meeting a ton of new people over there. They absolutely love the place. They love their neighbors. They love the facility. They love the grounds. So. And Liz Talbert did a great job coordinate that with the Youth Council. It was very nice. So another item is Fam Jam is coming up. It's a family event that's coming up May 10th from 12 to 8. It's right down on Commerce Street, and it has a band. There's going to be a very, very good Allman Brothers band called Soul Shine. So there's you'll hear it a couple more times, but I just want to get it out there. But it's a family event. They have, last year, the whole Railroad Park was full up of all games for kids, and it was packed. So bring your kids, have fun. It's from 12 to 8, and you can listen to a little music. Again, we went to the Shrub Oak, and Steve Rosen, little shout out to him. He did a great job and dedicating, 40 years of hard work, unpaid for, volunteered, and, it was so nice. He had his family in from out of town. There's a big surprise for him, but a little shout out for him also. And the last but not least is the library. The library is having, trivia is back, so they're going to have trivia on what days? May 9th is going to be Star Wars, and May 13th is Parks and Rec. On the 24th of April, at 2 o'clock, they're going to have a little iPhone photography, a little seminar. And on the 19th, they're going to have a little bit of Goldfish Swim Academy is going to be doing a water safety program over there. And last but not least is they're celebrating National Library Week. And you can go online at yorktownlibrary.org, and you could guess how many books they have in the library, and you'll win a gift card. And they're going to announce the winner on April 30th for that. So, but you can't, with the books going over, you can't guess over the number of books. So, but that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
So I got the pleasure on April 9th, before the Conservation Board, who does need members, they had 3 that came, to meet the Brownie Troop of 1941 in here. And we read this beautiful book by a Japanese author called Trying. And not only did they earn their democracy badge, and they asked really great questions like, do we have any animal shelters that don't work with just cats and dogs? Maybe certain amphibians that think that they're pets and can't be put back in the water? Or could we reserve on taking shorter showers so we can serve on the water? Or can we clean up the place? So I was able to tell them about the Band Together in Yorktown. I was able to tell them about our great citizens here in Yorktown that are doing these movements. We spoke about the Mohegan Lake and how they're preserving the waters and what it takes to maintain the lake. We talked about the orange bags that pick up trash. They were talking about development, so we talked about what would happen if we would need a new school, if the development had too many kids, and all these great questions. And in the book that was Trying, it was talking about how many times we have to fail to get it right. And it was talking about a sculptor that would build these sculptures that he would not be so proud of. And he would say, I couldn't do it. And he failed, and he failed, and he failed. And one day he takes this boy over and goes, look, I'm a sculptor now, and I succeeded. but I kept all of these fails because if it wasn't for these fails, I could have never succeeded. So in that, I said, that's kind of what happens here on this board. We try, and a lot of our tryings aren't always these automatic fireworks of success. But see, the success is that we're never giving up, and we're listening to all of you. And though I can't work with the board about the schools and whatnot, I heard you, and maybe I could lead you to someone else, like come to Ken's Lake Day or whatnot, or Rochambeau on May 17th and 18th, and learn about the history of the soil in the Grange to see who came here, who founded here, what they create, what roots are here, and how we can make Yorktown a better place. So a big shout out to that group of the Brownies in 1941. I did attend all of these fantastic things, and I just want to say, obviously, April Showers does bring the Mayflowers, and we know that we're going to have Fam Jam, and the Garden Club's going to sell their Mother's Day plants, and they're also going to have a sign-up booth to teach you also how to harvest. We have the Garden of Hope that feeds over 700 families locally here. They even give away plots so people can actually go and harvest their own foods because the grocery stores are so expensive at times. So let's not forget about that. You don't get to see me and on this board for the next 2 weeks, but don't forget we have all this exciting stuff. So keep your ears to the ground, and hopefully we'll see you guys at the Chamber of Commerce so you can meet also the local businesses. As far as exclusive cuts too, they're now ADA approved because they're on one floor. I don't know if everybody remembers they were located by Wishes in that grandfathered business, so you'd have to go up the stairs to get your hair cut. Now it's okay if you don't want to do the stairs or you can't do the stairs. They have entrances in the front and in the back, and they're looking to house more hairdressers because they have more chairs. So it was really nice. It was nice to be not only with those that are opening up, but those that are also expanding. And it was really nice how Michael's did a grand opening, and being a big box store, you know, they have a fabric place coming in. It might take away from our Fabric Mart, but it can't because the quality you get from that one-on-one at Fabric Mart, you're not going to get that at Michael's. But if you're in a pinch and your kid's got to come into like Colonial Day the next day, you could go make yourself a hat. And one of the things I found that was interesting was their grand opening showcased a band, which is coming into that pavilion, which is going to be River Rock.
River
right?
Rock School of Music.
So they had a bunch of youth like rocking out, and then they had stations throughout the store, and they engaged with. So it wasn't just a cut the ribbon; it was come in and meet us and play. And everyone who worked there, the majority were from our community, and that was really neat too. The manager actually is a father of one of my son's soccer playmate. You'll know him, Mike. So it's like really neat to be like, hey, I know you and you're wearing a different shirt because I wear a different hat sometimes. But at the end of the day, I think I wear all the hats. They just throw on my badge, just like that democracy badge that those girls are.
Hey, just
Thanks,
an
Luke.
FYI, there's a balloon bar at Michael's. So let's keep that in the back of your mind, everybody.
Something that was missing since Party
Plastics
Center.
haven't gone away yet.
All right. All right.
At least there's not a crumble because those cookies are 3,000 calories for. What?
Ed, I'd like to comment. Just-
Right.
Sure, Susan.
Did I guilt you? I'm sorry.
Don't take my time, Susan.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go on.
No, make your comment, Susan.
All right. Just to address what Pat said. Yes, I apologize for talking about those items. And just let me give you an update, because I was going to mention two of them very briefly because they had, in my opening comments, because I didn't know that they were going to be discussed upstairs. One has to do with the Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension project. In the past, we've talked about how the town has a commitment for $10 million from East of Hudson funds, and then we were expecting $1.2 million from when Congressman Mondaire Jones was in office, and $1.2 million from the previous congressional session from Mike Lawler's office. I had been in touch with Mike Lawler's office to say, what's the status of those two federal fundings? And the last email I got said, contact the supervisor's office. So before I raised the issue, Ed did say that he had been in touch with Lawler's office, and unfortunately, what we found out is we're not getting the $2.2 million. That the one from Lawler's office, I get confused with the federal fiscal year, whether it's fiscal year, I think 25, the previous Congress, that never got signed into law, so that was gone. And no one can find any paperwork on the Mondaire Jones $1.2 million, so that's lost.
That's not a true statement, Susan. They are trying to figure it out.
Well, the Mondaire Jones, they're trying to find out if
Right,
we
exactly.
got there. And this is a problem when the congressional offices, whether it's Lawler's office or Gillibrand or Schumer, say, we're getting X dollars for your community for X projects. Sometimes it's an authorization that comes out of Congress. An authorization is not an appropriation, and you need an appropriation to have money. And this happened earlier this probably last year, when Congressman Lawless said he was getting a $10 million grant for Halleck's Mill sewers. Okay, and that was an authorization, not an appropriation. And if you follow federal budgeting issues, we don't have a federal budget. So
What the quote was from Congressman Lawler's office was that our $10 million made it into the appropriations bill. The problem is that the Senate leader at that time, Chuck Schumer, never put the appropriations bill into law. They never pushed it forward. On the bright side, as I did mention to you before, since you want to go down the road, because I don't like talking about maybes and ifs, but you keep bringing them up. But I did get a call from Senator Schumer's office asking us to put the money in so they could try to do a reappropriation again this year. So his office reached out directly to me. They understand that the town of Yorktown sort of got the raw end of the deal, and they are trying to make better. Now, I really don't like to put that stuff out, because if it doesn't happen, it looks bad for them. And I you know what? The effort is what I care about and that they're trying to do. I definitely want the money for our town, but I'm very happy that they're going to bat for us. So that's really what counts to me at this point. But please, if we can avoid for the future talking about all these maybes and ifs, it would be appreciated, because I don't like to have people built up on it and built down. And the Lawler one, I know it's just a newspaper picked it up the wrong way, and that's why that got out there like that. But they were quite quick on trying to address the fact that no, it needs to go through the appropriations process. We were not awarded it.
and I think the reason why I brought the Halleck's Mill sewer extension up several meetings ago was because we cannot keep talking about maybes and ifs, and that's why I strongly suggested that we go forward and plan for how many houses can be sewered with the $10 million that we do have, that we have a commitment, because the county has confirmed that we have a good chance, because you got a call from County Executive Jenkins, on that we can count on that. And then that led to a further discussion, because the town engineer happened to be in the room, of how we're going to proceed with the Halleck's Mill Extension District. And that's what that discussion was. And that should have been something that people could have listened to. The other issue was how we were going to proceed with the Peekskill Operation Sewer District, which is something that I brought up. And if you remember from the last town board meeting, I was disappointed that we didn't have a resolution to create that district by the May 1st tentative, the deadline for adopting this tentative assessment role. And that had a discussion then about then how do we proceed? And that's, again, a discussion that got very much into the process of how the board is going to proceed. And we finally discussed that there'll be a resolution tonight to set a public hearing on an issue. Those were the issues that were discussed.
Right. And then, Susan, I will, since Patrick made the point, I asked specifically for legal advice on where we were with it, where bond counsel was with it, and I wanted to get some answers from our attorney, which is 100% closed, privileged information. Any conversation with our attorney is, when it comes to that. You wanted answers, which I want as well, because I've been working on this almost since I came into office, and it's something that is very important. So once again, let's stay out of the grays altogether, down here and upstairs. I did, as I told you earlier, I like the idea of, and we didn't close the door today. Anyone could have been up there and listened, but that's fine, and that's where I like the idea, and that's something that we'll talk to the board about and see what they'd like to do.
Just a point about, I don't want to belabor the issue, but when we get legal advice, there are many times during these meetings that that you or even I have turned to the attorney and said, could you give us legal advice on something? And we don't suddenly say, everyone go out of the room because we're getting legal advice from our attorney. So there's a nuance to getting legal advice.
Right, and where you ask for it as well. If I'm asking for it here for clarification for the audience, that's perfectly fine. I'm asking you for it for their clarification. And that's what we're supposed to do. There's some things that I want for my clarification, and it's a privileged conversation. That's all.
Let's proceed.
So, yep. All right. Proclamations. I'll start the first one. Luciani will have the second one.
Sure.
Yom HaShoah. Whereas from 1933 to 1945, nearly 6 million Jews were murdered in the Nazi-led Holocaust as part of a systematic program of genocide, and whereas in addition to targeting Jews across Europe, millions of other people perished as victims of Nazism, and whereas those who fell under German control, especially Jews, were stripped of their rights and property, and whereas nations across Europe lost a majority of the Jews living in their countries, especially places such as Poland, the Ukraine, and Belarus, and whereas the town of Yorktown has hosted Holocaust remembrance ceremonies to honor those who perished by educating the living of the atrocities that took place, and whereas Holocaust Remembrance Day, known in Hebrew as Yom HaShoah, is a day set aside for remembering the victims of the Holocaust and reminding citizens of the world what can happen when hatred, bigotry, and indifference become accepted societal policies. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the town of Yorktown pauses in its governmental deliberations to commemorate the observance of Yom HaShoah, and be it further resolved, the town of Yorktown rededicates its belief in the principle of equal justice for all people and reaffirms its commitment to fight all forms of hatred and anti-Semitism within our great community.
National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whereas emergencies can occur anytime, require police, fire, or emergency medical service. I see you guys back there. When the emergency occurs and the prompt response of the police officer, firefighter, paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property and lives. Whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have the emergency services. Whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them with information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators in Yorktown have contributed substantially to apprehending criminals, suppressing fires, and treating patients. Each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, professionalism during these performances of their job in the last year. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Edward A. Lackerman, do hereby proclaim that April 9th through April 15th be National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week in Yorktown in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our town and our citizens safe. So, full transparency, my husband is a medic for Empress, and he works at the YVAC. So thank you for not only helping my husband go help others, but making sure he gets there in the best way.
Yes. And I will say, yesterday I had the privilege of being the municipal guest for the county's weekly show with Ken Jenkins. And Ken recognized Christopher Perez, the mailman who helped at the fire down in Jefferson Village, or up in Jefferson Village, since it's north of here. And something that was interesting that I had heard, and he actually not only was able to confirm, but they had video on, is that the fire was actually spotted by a county patrol, aerial patrol, and it was called in by 60 Control to Mohegan Fire, and it was they are the ones who dispatched that. So they're sort of the people behind the scenes, but the job they do is imperative, and I'm sure that our first responders in the room could vouch for that. So thank you all first responders, and let's not forget our telecommunicators. Actually, I'm going to give this to, I know some people down at Control 60, and we'll make sure that gets to them. So,
And I don't know how you live with all the tones. Because I have a bunch of those radios in my house, and I'm always like, I have no idea these so many tones. And they all mean different things. So it's a whole new language.
so
Thank you for your service.
our poet laureate isn't here, and the junior poet laureate isn't here today either.
So, John, I hope you're doing well.
Yes, so we will jump into presentations. Mr. Tegeter. Now, just to put you on the spot, Mr. Tegeter has promised that this will be one of the shortest presentations he's ever done.
I have like 3 sentences, and I think they have 4.
Okay,
I
so
think
7.
That's pretty short.
I'm going
yeah.
to count.
I think that's you can count. So this is by way of reminder. This is the AMS project, 800 East Main Street, which was formerly Contractors Register. Just so everyone is aware of what we're talking about. You've gone through a long process of producing an environmental impact statement, which you've had public hearings on, a lot of public input, a lot of staff input, and expert input. And the next step is to go through what your conclusions about that process are as a next step towards making a decision on the project. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to these folks who can talk a little bit in 3 or 4 sentences about the project and what the exact next steps are. I'm hoping that you take this in the next couple of weeks, set up a time in the future when you think you can get to a decision, but read through that, and will of course always be available for any of your questions to get through what the draft findings say and to a final version of it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I thought about doing a poem, but I won't do it. So, Mark Weingarten on behalf of AMS Acquisitions. John said to be brief. He really handled most of it. The project is the contract register site. I will point out, for those who haven't been following the whole process, it was originally 250 units of 55 and older housing, which is now 180 units. The seeker process has worked. We've worked through your public hearings. We're at the findings. Where we are now is at a point where those are all of the, we went through the environmental impact statement. We studied over 13 categories, things like noise, air quality, traffic, all of the things that we've discussed, all of the mitigations for the traffic, things like traffic lights, intersection improvements. It's all in the findings. Those requirements are there. We're hoping to work through that with you quickly. The next step, if you do adopt the findings, would be adoption of the zoning, which allows us to consider this project so that it would be allowed on the site. But that's not the completion of it. Even if that occurs at the town board level, the next stop after that would be to go back to the planning board and do a site plan review of all of the various buildings. So that's where we are in the process, and you have that full finding statement in front of it, and we look forward to hearing your comments and hope to have it adopted as soon as you are ready.
Just a quick question. Can the public comment on the finding statement, on the draft? Or is it just up to the board?
There's nothing that prohibits people from, there's typically not public comment, either at a meeting or, in writing, but there was nothing that legally stops it. At this point, now that you've been through all the public hearings, have an FEIS, the seeker process says it's now in the hands of the lead agency to take all of that communication and make its decisions.
Will the draft be, perhaps this is a question for the town clerk, will the draft finding statement be put online?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a... All righty. So thank you for the short presentation.
Are you able to select
We're-
in the future when you think you can?
Well, I know we're
Project
going to
decision.
we're going to accept the draft or accept the findings
Yeah.
later tonight.
You're going to acknowledge.
Acknowledge. I'm sorry. Acknowledge we received. Yes, and then for the acceptance, I want to go through it, make sure we're all good. Perhaps May.
Okay.
And just for the record, it's only one sentence, the acknowledgement. So it goes with your speech.
Yes. See how that works?
She works with you.
Simpatico.
Total of 8.
It's a run-on sentence, but we need only one, Dave. One dot, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, the next one, actually, I'm quite thrilled. We are in the presence of some of the best athletes in the world as they competed in the World Special Olympics, and we have some bronze medal recipients, and we have Mike Budd and Samantha Frederick. Would you guys like to come up to the microphone or the podium? And I'm going to say a little bit about you guys, if you don't mind. So, Samantha Frederick of Yorktown Heights began competing in Special Olympics 8 years ago and has participated in basketball, bowling, floorball, floor hockey, and softball. Special Olympics has changed Samantha's life. And Mike Bubb of Shrub Oak, an Okie from Shrub Okie. We had one of those sit on this board for many years. Has spent 15 years training in bowling, floorball, floor hockey, and swimming with Special Olympics. As a leader and an athlete, he has made friends and learned the value of acceptance. His weekly routine includes training with his team and playing bass guitar in a rock band. So in the Special Olympics World Winter Games in Turin, Italy, 2025, Samantha and Mike represented Special Olympics USA in floorball, and the team won the bronze medal.
Bravissimo,
They-
guarda.
They beat Germany 3-1.
Stupendi, hai fatto benissimo. Did you guys learn Italian while you were there? Bravo.
So would either of you like to share your experience? Please step up to the mic.
Sure, put
Mike.
the goalie on the spot.
Yeah. Well, you
Funny.
like when things get tossed at you, right? Did you say you're the
Of course,
goalie?
of course. My name is Michael Bubb. I am the goaltender for Special Olympics USA. Of course, like you guys said, we went to Turin, Italy, where we competed against the world's best of the best. Italy, Austria, and Germany for 2 weeks. We wound up seeing the sites, the Auto Museum, the Ancient Egyptian Museum. Of course, got to learn Italian, got to eat some wonderful Italian food. And overall, just a wonderful experience. And I would do it all over again if I had the chance to do it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Grazie.
That's awesome.
Prego, guarda. Bravo.
Mike could have said it better than myself. We had a great experience. It was really fun to be with our coaches, our team. We got to meet other countries and other friends, and we were lucky to keep in touch with them while we're back in our states.
Stupendo, guarda. I can even help you write it if you want to write your prize.
So I know we sent some proclamations down when you were recognized in Pleasantville, but I do have certificates of Olympic achievement for both of you on the hard work and dedication and the commitment to excellence that you've shown in your sports. And I got tired just from hearing all the things you guys do. So I'd like to present these to you. Congratulations. Guys, why don't we come up for a photo?
Another picture.
A substitute goalie with Mike, and I play defense.
I will get that fixed. I'm sorry.
Yes.
No worries. No worries.
What is floorball? I'm not an athlete, so I don't
So
know.
floorball is actually a European sport. It's actually not native to America. And the best way to basically describe it is think of hockey, street hockey.
Come right up to here so we
sorry.
can hear you. That's okay.
Apologies. So the best way to describe floorball is it's a European sport. It was founded in the 1970s by Sweden, and is actually played all over Europe. It is new to America, and we recently just switched over to about last year. And the best way to describe it is think of street hockey, but with soccer rules.
Yep.
And I myself, as the goaltender, don't play the normal hockey goaltender. In fact, I wear a very specific suit filled with padding and specialized shoes to where I can actually slide on my knees back and forth. And I have no stick and glove rather than just two regular, soccer mitts, really. And
Massive mitts.
yeah, and a helmet. And I will say this outright. If you guys think that this wiffle ball comes at you very slowly, you are sorely mistaken. I have been hurt with this ball quite a bit. but all worth it in the end.
Now, I have to say, sometimes I watch TV series that were done in Europe, and there was one recently, I think it might have been a Swedish series, and that sounds just like what they were playing, which I didn't understand at the time. Thank you.
I just learned there was
We
soccer
wound up.
golf, I
We
didn't
actually
know
wound
that.
up rooming with the Finns actually in our hotel in on the other side of town. They were actually explaining the history of the sport to us, and we actually learned some tips from them. Believe it or not. So they went on to win the gold medal in their division. Of course, we wound up winning bronze in our division.
Wonderful.
So
Well,
And you're so close
congratulations.
to us, Vitsa, so you got went back
Yes.
and forth, right? Yeah. Wonderful. Let's take a picture. Can you take a picture with us?
absolutely.
Would that be okay?
Where would you guys want us?
Right here.
Yeah, we gotta get centered.
Another good one. Come back here, ma'am. Is it okay if I put my hands on your shoulders?
The camera
Yeah.
usually breaks where my face is.
Look at that. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, moving. You're very welcome.
Yeah, it does. Nice.
So awesome. Do we want to write a little note to what's her face?
Yeah. All right. Wow, that's fantastic to see some world champions here. Yeah, if you
Yes.
want to come by, we should have it tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll have it spelled
Thanks.
correctly.
Congratulations.
That's right. Have you seen my last name? Yeah, it's confused. I don't know. I got it even like hyphenated. I'm gonna put on this sign HOW-IT. No problem at all. So Bob,
Thank you.
you're my bud.
All right, so we are going to move on to public comment. And as a reminder, you can always contact us. You don't have to wait for public comment. You can always contact Town Hall, our town officials, and our town departments. We are here to work for you, and you can visit the town's website at www.yorktownny.gov. You can find all the contact information from every department here, the town clerk, the town attorney, and of course your elected officials. And let's not forget Dave Paganelli and Highway over there.
Oh, you forgot me earlier.
As, oh, that's right. I'm sorry. We'll go back to you, Dave.
No,
Wow, that's because Susan cut you off.
You'll have
Blame
time.
Susan.
Susan stole my
As a
time.
reminder, there is a 3-minute time limit on your public comments. We ask that you keep them directed to the town board, and we ask, as always, that your comments remain respectful. With that, would anyone like to speak at this time, Lonnie?
Good evening, everyone. Ilan Gilbert, the former town supervisor. Over the last year and now the last few months, we have lost 3 important people who served with me while I was supervisor. Tob Diana, Alice Roker, 2 very well-known cornerstones in our town. They were well-known and deservedly so. May their memories be a blessing. And thank you, Ed, now for the moment of silence for Stuart Glass. Stuart Glass did not have that kind of notoriety, but he deserves it. Having been my right hand while supervisor, I would like to say a tad more. And I hope if I run over the 3 minutes, I don't think I will. I first met Stu years ago at the Yorktown Jewish Center. I didn't know him well, but even from a distance, you could tell what kind of person he was: enthusiastic, thoughtful, caring, and always going out of his way to work for the synagogue and all its congregants, and always with a smile. His warmth extended not just from himself, but through his entire family. He was one of those people who made you feel better by conversing with him. And we say in Yiddish, a true mensch. Years later, Stu and I got to know each other better as I campaigned for town supervisor. And after winning my election, I began the process of selecting my administrative assistant. I needed someone who I could trust, that I could rely on, and who shared the same commitment to serving our town. Over the past months, during the campaign, I had come to know Stu, not just as an acquaintance or a colleague, but as a true friend. Though I interviewed several people for the job for administrative assistants, Stu's background as a lawyer who had worked for a number of governmental agencies, including FEMA, showed his dedication to this community, and it made him the clear choice at the time. I had seen Stu's energy and spirit from the days at the Jewish Center, but in government, he took it to another level. He was tireless, dedicated, sharp, loyal, organized. Stu wasn't just my right hand, he was often my left hand too. He kept the engine running, and he made sure things got done. He also had this incredible knack of knowing what I needed, oftentimes before I even knew it myself. Beyond work, beyond politics, what I'll always carry with me is the deep admiration I had for the way Stu lived his life. He adored his wife, Brenda, and was so proud of his daughters, Lauren and Michelle, and of his beloved grandchildren. He lit up when he talked about them. I'm so grateful that the day before Stu passed, I had the chance to speak with him. I took that opportunity to thank him again for everything he had done for me and for the town, on behalf of the town. He looked at me, eyes wide open, smiled, and simply said, "Lanny, it was fun." And that's what I'll remember, the joy, the humor, the dedication, and the friendship. May his memory be a blessing. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Judge. That was very nice. Good evening, Jay Kopstein.
Hey, Jay.
3 comments, 2 questions. Comment number 1, regardless of how it appears, this town had only one supervisor, and that's Mr. Lachterman. Comment number 2, though judges and lawyers can't say it, there's a specific difference between commenting on written law and giving a legal opinion as guidance to town officials. And that guidance has to be done privately. It's not open to the public and should not be open to the public. Comment number 3. I'm tired of hearing about supervisors, about sewers, Susan. Until there's something to be said, stop taking up 15 minutes of time. And there is a federal budget. A continuing resolution is a federal budget. My 2 questions. The construction work at Yorktown Green going on right now. Is there a permit? Because nothing's been before the planning board. They're ripping down the whole facade. Is there a permit for it? They fenced it all in.
Abaca. They've been before Abaca. That's the triangle.
They're working on it now, the triangle. They're working on it now. Is there a permit? 385 Keir Street. You mentioned the 2 restaurants. The town board voted that no permit was to be issued until the issue of the HVAC was settled and they posted a bond. I haven't seen anything before the planning board, and I want to know if a permit was issued, and if it was issued, why was it issued in violation of what the town board direction was? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Michael Hickens, Yorktown resident. It's my understanding that until 2016, Yorktown had a law that required developers to set aside 10% of new units constructed as affordable housing. Given that many young people and retirees find it hard to afford living here, including people who work for our town, why did we decide to repeal that law? If the law itself was problematic, why haven't we found an alternative from among the many such laws around the country that do address this problem, given that currently, according to our own Yorktown Community Housing Board, less than 1% of units in Yorktown are considered affordable?
Thanks, Mike.
Excuse me. Dan Strauss, 59-year resident. You had a fire in Jefferson Village, and you had National Public Safety Week. Meanwhile, people continue and businesses continue to do business. They park in fire zones. And I'll make it very short and sweet. Until you tell me, as the town board, that you're going to do nothing about this, I'll keep saying this every 2 weeks or every public comment. People's lives are at stake, and it's nothing to, there's no humor involved whatsoever. Either do something about it or tell me at a meeting that you're not going to and refuse to, and it's not that important. The basketball court, I bring that up again. I was over there today at the park along the street picking up some stuff, and in one corner of the basketball court, and I have a picture if you want me to send it to you, but if you want, you can go tomorrow morning because it's probably still there. There were about 20 bottles in the corner of the basketball court. There are 2 trash cans outside padlocked to the fence, so there's no issue with keeping it clean. As far as I'm concerned, it should be shut until whoever uses it respects the court and what they're able to do in the town of Yorktown. The solar farm at Hill Boulevard. It's just, maybe this is a little humor, but I seem to remember that the lady who owned the property was going to plant pollinators underneath the in-ground solar. And I just wondered, it's been about a year that it's up. Has anyone checked if she ever did that? Are there pollinators under there? Okay, if there are. You're nodding, yes, but so the 685 Keir Street, where people rent apartments, how did anyone approve 2 restaurants to be sitting under luxury apartments? When they said it was going to be retail, I thought they meant businesses like an accounting firm, but restaurants that could just blow to smithereens? I don't get it. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Larry Killian, Yorktown Heights. If you think this blue sweater looks old, it is. I wore it 8 years ago when I spoke about 485B at this podium before it was adopted. But before I get into that, in listening to those meetings before 485B, I heard Susan talking about sewers. And I want to thank her for years of hard work and knowledge and just being an advocate for good government. And I hope, Susan, you will continue to talk about sewers. So, quoting myself from 8 years ago, when I spoke against 485B, the incentive board report had a lot of very good recommendations, but what it didn't have was analysis of the necessity or efficacy of the incentive. No comparative analyses of other towns' tax rates and the use of the incentive. No rationale for why it was not targeted, and most importantly, there was not an estimate of the short-term negative effects as opposed to the long-term positive effects. End quote from 8 years ago. So here we are 8 years later, and still no analysis of its efficacy. Talk back then was it was going to help small businesses. Actually, the opposite has happened. It's brought in large businesses which hurt existing small businesses. And let's hopefully correct some misinformation that was in the newspaper about the Yorktown Green development. They did not get a 485B tax break. It's an example of having robust development without a tax break. And Yorktown Green has not paid more taxes since Uncle G's came in because their assessment has not gone up. So it's true that their tax bill went up by 7.4% since last year. But that's not because of Uncle G's. That's because everybody had their tax bill raised by that amount. But why does it still say 6.6% on our tax bills? We simply can't give tax breaks to property owners for something they are going to do anyway. For example, BJ's Gas. It's just a waste of taxpayer money. We need to review and revise this policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Good evening, Town Board. I'm Howard Gould. I've been a resident now, I could say 26 years. I'd just like to say one thing. First of all, I'd like to give kudos to Susan Siegel for her knowledge and memory of all the facts going back since she was supervisor. I don't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. But I have to agree with my friend Jay. There is only one supervisor at a time. And Ed, you fit the bill, and I give you kudos for what you do. And I like what you said when you said you do not want to give out false promises. And to me, that's what makes a good supervisor. You tell it like it is, and you keep your promises. You're out there just like every town board member is. You're there to help people. You're there to listen to people. You're there to ask people advice. You're there to give people advice, and you resolve people's thing. Anyway, you're respectful, and you give high hopes. You make the town a better place to live, just as the community together makes a better place to live. And I'm proud to say Yorktown, the great town of Yorktown, is going to be the best town of all of the United States. I also want to give credit to Jefferson Village with the fire. It was sad, number one. You're right. It could have been a lot worse. And like Chief Noble said, you see something, and I'm paraphrasing, you see something, say something. Even if you're not sure, say something. Let them check it out. If it's nothing, it's nothing. But let them check it out. But someone did something. And it's important because lives can be saved. It could have been a lot worse. And we don't want to think about that. But something was done. I'm not going to go on and on. I know there's a lot to cover today. But I want to thank the town board. You can look at the businesses. We should be celebrating. This is a good time. I am so confident with this town board. I feel so positive with this town board. I feel so positive with the community. I've always felt this way. And I have a habit of giving a novel, and I don't want to do that, but you know where I'm coming from, and I'm trying to get better at these speeches, so I will stop and say, have a great night, have a great holiday. Let's move on
Same
and
to you,
ahead.
Howard. Thank you.
You as well.
I know April 26th is coming up again.
It is.
I purposely didn't want to steal your thunder.
Thank you, Supervisor Lechterman. You went through some of the events that are already scheduled for April 26th. It's a really busy day here in Yorktown. You can go on the town website, go to the community calendar, and see all the things that are scheduled. But the Yorktown Repair Cafe at Grace Lutheran Church will again be held on Saturday, April 26th. Certainly, we do it every 3 months, but always in April. It really ties into the Earth Day theme. We've looked at over 1,500 items, kept about 75% of them out of the waste stream. And this will be our 25th Repair Cafe here in Yorktown. So with all the other activities going on, if you've still got a broken lamp or you need some technology help or, a torn pocket that needs to be sewn up, stop by and our talented volunteers will give it a shot. And then just give you an opportunity if in case what we talked about last week with the food insecurity and the federal cuts.
So I spoke with Cindy, and we're going to talk about it in May.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah. On the
So
list.
you can give a report when it's time for comments in terms of what's happening there. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? All right.
Motion.
Motion to close for courtesy of the floor. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Why don't you talk about food insecurity
Yeah,
first?
so I'm going to take these comments, circle around, and then come back with them with some suggestions. But as far as the food insecurity, we're picking up our meetings again come this May, and I already have you on the roster just to loop you in. And I think it'll be a good partnership. And in the meantime, there's other agencies, like Westchester-wide, New York statewide. I did just attend affordable housing at Pace University for women. Like, there's all these places where we are also getting, formulas and all these extra things for babies. So once we loop in, we can figure out what the plan is from there. But I did speak to Cindy, and she's starting them off on the second week of May.
And I'll be reaching out to Colin Smith as well, because he did just get $125,000 for a food bank in Peekskill. And remind him that St.
We've
Mary's
got a
falls
couple.
into that.
Yeah.
All right. So, Lonnie, thank you. I figured you'd be talking about Stu. One thing I want to share was the times that I was able to talk to him about community service, as between the Lions, the Sons, and the different groups that I've worked with. Stu also did a ton of community service, and quite a treasure to the town in his position, but. Even more, I think that community service means so much more. It's easy per se to say, I want to be up at the table. I want to be in that office. I want to do that. But when you give of yourself freely, willing, as Stu did, it's a great thing. And he was able to give me a lot of great ideas for some of the clubs that I work with, and to try to carry on some things. And he'll be dearly missed in the town. But thank you for sharing with that. Jay, thank you for your comments. I will look into 385 Cure. They do have permits. I know that the Triangle, not Yorktown Green, they went before Abaca, so they did get their approval. So they I believe have permits, because I did ask John about permits that were coming up, and I know like Miraggio's and all that. So I'll just make sure if they don't change their site plan per se, they don't end up before planning. There are some things that might be there from the original plan that John and I spoke about, and we'll go back and make sure that those T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And while we're there, I know there was a question, Dan, I think, about the pollinators, and planning does inspect that. John has been out there. There are pollinators planted, and they'll keep that focus on that. Michael, for the 2016 law change, at the time, the board felt it was an unfair tax. I personally would be in favor of a density bonus, and I've said that repeatedly. I know our housing board I've had the conversation with, and I also believe in workforce housing, which I think is very important. Some of the issues I've had personally with the affordable housing programs that have been offered in the model laws in Westchester is it's a lottery. And when affordable housing was started, and by the way, I think the number might be greater than 1% in Yorktown. We do have quite a few affordable apartments, Beaver Ridge, we have Windward Oaks, we have a lot, the Underhill Apartments. So the Keir Street building, just in general, there are a lot of them out there, more than most of the municipalities. As a matter of fact, we were always ahead of the game in Yorktown. But there is definitely a despairing problem with the lottery is when affordable housing started, it was supposed to help the members of your community, your teachers, your first responders, your volunteers. Now it's a lottery system that's open to, I believe, 9 different counties. So the people that are in your community that they were set up for do not necessarily get the help. I've had, actually, since even before he was elected to finish George Latimer's term, I have had the conversations with Ken Jenkins, who's been very positive about the fact that, you know, we could look for some type of a workforce ownership program, and he's trying to come around with a county objective on that. And if that's the case, it's something that I would be more than happy to visit, because our first responders definitely deserve that opportunity to find affordable housing within our community, especially our volunteers. Fortunately, I will say if any of the volunteers are listening, they have passed a law in the county now where first responders who serve within the county, it used to be if you served in the county in Yorktown, you could get a Yorktown tax break. Now, if you serve in Mount Vernon and you live here in Yorktown, you could actually, as a volunteer, you can actually take a county tax break, which is a nice thing. The county's recognizing that. Unfortunately, the one person that they were gearing to try to get him to become a volunteer was Chris Perez yesterday, because he was down at the county with me, and they're like, "Oh, you could do this," and I don't think Ken realized he actually lives in Putnam. So he would, if he volunteered in Westchester, he would not get it. I did not mention it to him. I know, I did not mention it to him just because of recruitment, but unfortunately that wouldn't translate for him. So, you know, there are some facts about affordable housing. The young lady sitting in front of you would be an excellent resource if you want to try to learn a little more. Or the retired gentleman in the plaid shirt could put back his community housing hat and help you out as well. So Dan, the fire and JV, yeah, there was some great things, but you're right about the fire zones. I am constantly, anytime I go to a store and I see people in the fire zone, I call whatever police officer I know is on duty, and I ask them to come by. Unfortunately, those people leave pretty quick, and when you park in the fire zone, or when you pull into a parking lot and you see a cop, you usually don't park in the fire zone unless you're a little dense. But I'm constantly on the phone with that, and I was under the impression that the auto store was doing their repair work in the back now when they do the free battery change and wiper change, because they do try to help people. I see Jay shaking his head, so I'll talk to them and see what they can do. If not, even try to get
that
couple
lot is
of them.
popping. That's busy. And
Yep.
Anybody, even if your teenager is going to Taco Bell, just get a spot or go inside the parking lot. But I find that also, it's not just that. Like, I'll find even just to run in and get something, and I get that. We have the dance studio, now we're going to have the music studio. It's very convenient, especially when it's raining, to pull up in front to get your kid. But when men go to war, they don't decide what the weather is. So it's okay for your kid to get a little wet and come meet us, or your neighbor or your friend, and pick you up. So.
All right.
That happens a lot, also with the parents.
For the basketball court, Dan, our refuse and recycling department is in charge of the cleanup over there. The parents should be in charge of teaching the kids. We really can't shut down a park based on the actions of a few. It's a public community park. But I have asked our Parks and Recreation department to also help out there so they could do some additional cleaning. And ironically, I spoke to Jim the other day, since there's not enough room inside the courts, maybe rework those garbage cans so we could do a little cutout and people don't have to walk their stuff around and just drop it in. I do stop there when I see a mess and ask the people to clean up after themselves. They usually do, but when I leave,
So
I don't
Supervisor,
know.
I do want to name it. We do have the chair, one of the chairmen here from the Parks and Rec Commission. He's in the back. This was a topic at our last meeting. This is a continuous topic. We've even gotten to the point where we're like, do we just put a lock on it? Like, if you can't take care of it, you don't touch it. So Dan, our frustration is there. I love that you want to meet the need, like almost give them like a doggy door to throw it out. But kids or parents of kids or your neighbors, the garbage is right there. Like the fact that I have to go for a walk with my groups and we're picking up the trash, which is great. We don't want to litter. But like you're saying, it's visible that the kids are hanging out in one area of the park, but the commission is on it and Parks and Rec is doing the best that they can. They even tried to dump those garbage cans multiple times because we do want to see people using it. It's a great spot. But at the end of the day, it's only going to be as well as we take care of it. Everything's an investment and our money is, the taxpayers' money is down there to make it an investment. So your frustration is also shared by the Parks Commission and the Parks and Rec Department. So I don't think we're allowed to close it down and be there with, like writing detention, but.
All right, and then for Larry, I've addressed a lot of the stuff, but I will address one. There's a misconception that large businesses hurt small businesses. Not necessarily true. They bring people into the area. They bring people into our town that may not necessarily come here, and then they'll see other businesses. Does Lowe's or Home Depot hurt a small hardware store? I would say yes, but you have Ace Hardware, which seems to be thriving on right in between the two of them in Lexington Avenue. A lot of that is choice. I will drive to Ace to buy stuff versus going to the big box. And, not everyone makes that choice, but that's part of free choice. And, the businesses reach out, they do things. There are quite a few businesses that are strong in the community, and people want to support that, and that's it. I get my prescriptions from Yorktown Pharmacy versus CVS, unless it's something that my insurance says it has to go through CVS. I shop in the smaller stores. I go to the mom and pop restaurants. I was at Papoose for dinner tonight. It's my usual pre-meeting meal. So, and I could go to, there are plenty of chain restaurants I could go to, but I don't. I choose to keep it small, keep it local, and I ask everyone to make that. But to say that they hurt, I talk to people who drive down into the area, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys had this. I didn't know you guys had that." And and we talk about Fabric Mart. Luciana mentioned them. They actually give sewing classes. They teach you how to. They help the first responders put their patches on. I don't want to mention it too much because I know my wife one of these days is going to be, you should take one of those sewing classes so you could repair your buttons and do all your stuff yourself. But you know what? It's that service, it's that one-on-one, and that's what makes a small entrepreneurship place very, very important. And it's about exposure. Yorktown is on the map. Whether we like a big box Michaels or a Fabric Mart, people are coming in here, they're seeing it. They might see Libre Cafe and head there for a coffee, read a book. They might see the little art store that's over by the 50-plus training, which my wife has told me I could use a little bit of that. So there are plenty of opportunities, and it brings people, and that's it. And another thing, Luciana alluded to it. You walk into Michael's, you walk into Five Below, and it's our kids, it's our families that are working there, the stay-at-home moms, the job opportunities are tremendous. And, my wife used to work at Caldor back at the day, over here, in the fabric section, actually. So these things are part of what builds our community, whether they're big or small, and they're very important. Our business is important, and it helps with our tax base. So, we will keep trying to bring blight, get rid of the blight and make it all bright, as I've been saying, and get these empty spaces filled and opened up with something. Howard, thank you for giving the kudos to Susan. And, I understand what Jay said, and I know you agreed with my statement about I don't want to make false promises, and I am there. But, everyone has their voice, everyone is heard, and that's such an important aspect for this town board, and especially for me. And it's a great thing to hear. And I've, matter of fact, what was it last week, Susan, on the RFP that we're putting out today?
Yeah,
For the solar,
solar.
yeah. Susan was instrumental in that, and it's her critical eye and her knowledge, and it's all stuff that helps. So, we really do like it. Sometimes we might get a little contentious with each other. It's like a family meal here. So we're having our Seder right now, and sometimes we don't always agree. So, but that's part of life and learning, and we do keep that. So we like that, and yeah, and as you said, they did something in JV when that fire was there, which was so essential. Sarah, I will say you kept 2 of my clocks out of the trash, although they are still only right twice a day. That being said, though, I remember bringing a clock there, and you had someone who's like, "Let me take a stab at it." We actually got it running, so it was nice to see. And there's some great. You just could have a great time, and sometimes you see some of the things people bring in to the repair cafe that makes it worthwhile as well. And yeah, thank you for bringing up food insecurity. I speak to Cindy often. We had dinner the other night, and I know that there's a definite fear. The numbers are growing, and we're working what we can. And matter of fact, that's where the conversation about Colin. My wife saw it when it happened, that he had gotten that $125,000 for Peekskill, and she, you know what, we'll keep working to do that as well. Susan?
Okay. All right. Let me just kind of go through a couple of things. Jay, I'm sorry you're bored with my talking about sewers, but sewers affect, there are roughly 8,100 property owners in Yorktown that are on sewers. Roughly half in Halleck's Mill District and half in the Peekskill districts. Offhand, I don't know if Van Cortlandt Circle, where you live, is on sewers, so it may not affect you. Oh, okay. All right. So, and it affects you. And some of the work that we're doing for the Peekskill districts actually affects Halleck's Mill. Okay. Plus, and that 8,100 doesn't include the 315 who are in the proposed Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension District, who are part of a larger group of roughly 600 who've been waiting for roughly a decade to get on sewers. So to me, this is as important as many of the other issues that we talk about. On the what's happening at the Triangle, just to add to what Ed said, the public might not know this, but Miraggio's, which is planning to open, has come before the planning board for a special permit to allow outdoor seating in that area between Miraggio, where Miraggio's is, and the building. I guess it's the swim school. That's now a landscaped open space. They want to convert that to outdoor seating, and that's currently before the planning board. Thank you for bringing up the Keir Street issue and the HVAC. I'd also like to double check whether those 2 food establishments are going to be takeout or seating, because the
Takeout.
park. What?
Takeout.
They're all takeout because
hood.
Because if it was a sit down, then that would change the parking regulations on that. Michael, thank you for bringing up the question of affordable housing, which has been a long-standing issue in Yorktown. I have several comments on that. I'm glad to hear that, Ed, that you support a density bonus. Unfortunately, we've been giving out density bonuses to some developers without requiring any affordable housing. One example is Underhill Farms over there, which got a rezone from roughly 11 single-family homes to 148, multiple dwellings. And affordable housing was brought up during the discussions and the rezoning, and the board did not support that. We now are going to be asked to rezone AMS. Granted, that's from an office use to residential, but the issue of affordable housing came up during the DEIS hearings, and the board was not interested in doing that, but we're going to have, that's quite a significant bonus for them. The issue with the lottery, yes, when the original affordable housing law went into effect, yes, it goes back to when I was supervisor in 2010. There was preferences for local residents, people who worked for the town. Over the years, the courts have said that's not constitutional and we can't do that. So now it does have to be a lottery system. But we have two members of our housing board here, Sarah Wilson, who's the chairman, and Ken Belfer, who's the former chairman. And I think either of them could speak to the fact that over the last roughly 2 to 3 years, 2 affordable houses, for sale houses, that go back, part of the affordable housing program that go back to the late 1980s into 1990s, had to be resold. And I know one of them was sold to a woman who I believe works or lives in Yorktown, and I don't know about the other one. So, and this was with a detailed screening program. Also, I'd like to note that one of the developments that's currently being built, Fieldstone Manor, which was approved in 2016 when the affordable housing law was in effect, the resolution required 2 of the units. They were making 7 apartments in the former Stone Mansion at that site. 2 of those units were supposed to be affordable units, and they have not been. And we've had problems getting that requirement enforced. 2 other affordable units that are part of the Garden Lane development, and you'll see a resolution on the agenda later on, just dealing with that. That's a development on Garden Lane between 202 and Old Compound Road, roughly behind the diner. Okay. When that rezoning was granted in roughly 1990 and increased the density, he had a density bonus, and 2 of those units will have to be affordable. So density bonuses can work if the town board chooses to require the bonus, the affordable units, as part of that's part of the rezoning resolution. And with AMS coming up, I think that can still be an issue. I think those are the only things. So I'd like to see this board actually consider doing something for affordable, call it affordable housing, workforce housing, whatever you want to call it. But there's no question that there is a need. Many of even our town employees could not afford some of the units the apartments that are being built here that will be rented at market rate. And we're not even talking about the houses. Thank you.
I will say, Susan, I don't want to just call it something for the sake of calling it. I'd like stricter definitions. I'd like the county to try to help us look at it as a whole and find an acceptable solution. So
there are guidelines, because what's just called affordable in general is key to the median income, the Westchester County's median income, and that's adjusted upwards every year. And that affordable is usually for a for sale unit, like a condo or a house. It's usually 80% of the median income. For a family of 4, that income could be, Sarah, correct me, like $122,000 roughly.
Roughly about $125,000.
$125,000 would qualify for an affordable unit. And for a rental, it could be down to 60% of the average median income. And again, those are adjusted upwards. And it also depends on there are guidelines, very specific guidelines, and it depends on, you can't have one person get, I think, a 2-bedroom unit. There are guidelines in terms of household size and units, and all of this is laid out in the affordable housing law that we have on the books, which only applies to the units that were previously approved.
Patrick?
So, Susan, I think I'm going to speak for myself, but we agree that there's a housing crisis, and especially on the affordable housing side. But, Larry, I think it's time that we do need to revisit and review the 485B. But when I ran 2 years ago, we were running at about 40% vacancy in the thing. The town is absolutely flourishing now. And I don't know if it's 485, wasn't 485, I don't know, but the town's full. We have a welcome problem with parking. It's crowded. When I was running, everybody's like, you got a big empty parking spot down there. Now you can't find a parking spot. It's a welcome problem, You can't have it both ways where complain that there's, the parking lots are empty and the stores are empty, and now they're full and the parking lots are full. There's a direct correlation with it. So I do agree with you. It needs to be revisited. We're in the driver's seat now. We're able to have a full storefronts, full parking lots. We don't need to hand them out like if we did before. So I do think it's time to revisit it and review it. You made a very good point on that, but that ship has sailed. We're full now, and whether we use them or not, it's kind of irrelevant now because we're at full capacity and the town is thriving. So, and one last thing, Sarah, I'm looking forward to the Mother's Day. I go there, I get my 2 baskets. You guys do an awesome job on making it kind of flowers for dummies, and I fit that mold. And
You're the flower or the
They all
dummy?
come together for him to give as a gift.
I'm interchangeable, but they make it. Going forward, anybody out there, it's a perfect. They give you a nice little bucket.
Did they
and
tell you which
just-
ones are perennials? You could put them in the ground.
No, they tell you put her in a bucket. It says A, B, C, D, and you water it, and they come out beautiful. So,
Actually, one thing I did miss, and thank you for bringing up the 45B. I was having a conversation with someone regarding property values, and one of the things about property value is when your town is flourishing, when you have places to shop and eat and spend your money, your property values actually go up as well. So Yorktown has very low inventory because people want to live here, and that's once again it's a problem, but it's not the worst problem if you already own. Trying to get in here, it is, and there's it's a market dictated phenomena, and it'll keep going. All right, we have.
Luciana?
She said she was
thank you.
good.
Okay.
So we have some personnel to go through. Appoint James Waterhouse to the position of permanent water meter maintenance foreperson. Appoint James Say to the position of laborer in the water department. Appoint Michael Antonucci, permanent assistant wastewater treatment plant superintendent in the sewer department. And appoint Kyle Glitz, the permanent wastewater treatment plant operator grade 3 in the sewer department. Can I have a motion on those?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We will now move into public hearings. Our first, Dave, before I go into the public hearings on the roads, did you have anything for
No.
comment?
Oh, thank you.
I
I
don't wa-
always do. Actually, I do. We took down 29 trees on East Mohansick in the last 5 days. And if you'll recall, we only have 2 points of access to our town, Underhill and East Mohansick, that we are, responsible for. And we found a catch basin that was under 30 inches of dirt. Well, I figure at best it's 35 years old. So, and if you'll drive down Underhill as you're leaving town, you look to the right, we had taken a bunch of trees there as well as cleaning out that swale that forever that water was finding its way on the road. And we did the same thing actually out on East Mohansick. So we're trying to be very proactive in terms of trees and, water. This is our favorite things.
And
These are a few
just
of our
for,
favorite things.
Yes. Just for the public's edification here, these trees, especially on East Mohansick, if you ever drove down there, as you go around where there's that cutoff for the DEC, and you come down to the Taconic, the trees were all leaning into the road. Very
Dead as
dangerous.
doornails.
Huh?
Dead as doornails.
Dead as doornails, leaning in, taking down wires, constant blackouts. But really, and today was one of those days where all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, the wind just picked up like that. Jay actually texted me about the two NYSEG power outages. I know we blinked out a few times here, and they were very dangerous. So I thank you and your team, and thank you for being proactive. The last thing we want to be is reactive, and I'll thank the board because I know we've approved money for that tree removal, and I'll thank the rest of the board for voting positive on that, as I am only 20% of the vote. And
We appreciate it.
yeah, and it was much needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so public hearings. Diana, we have our notice for Public hearing to consider amending Chapter 216 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown entitled Peace and Good Order regarding snow and ice removal. Dave?
Okay, so this is sort of a combination situation. The second public hearing is regarding the deletion of a particular article of Chapter 250. The situation has arisen, at least I've become aware of it, that years ago, snow removal districts were created, okay, which unfortunately doesn't leave everyone on an even responsibility with respect to maintaining their sidewalks. As a matter of fact, part of it was, that businesses had to maintain their sidewalks between 9 and 6, so I guess 7-Eleven would be out of luck and anybody going to the banks. So basically, what we're looking to do is simplify this. Anyone that has property adjacent to a sidewalk in the town of Yorktown is responsible for the maintenance. Since there were snow removal districts created, there were some condominium complexes that felt, well, we're not in the district, we're not cleaning our sidewalks. Well, that's not fair to the person that's going out on East Main Street and shoveling their sidewalk. So that being said, that's the purpose of this. Eliminate the one law, make the law very simple, no timelines, it's got to be clean from this to that. It's got to be clean, period. And everyone has to maintain, and just like, believe it or not, who do you think maintains the sidewalks on Route 6 and the sidewalks on 202?
Probably us.
Us, because any state or county sidewalks that are in our town, okay, fall on the highway department to maintain those, believe it or not. Another unfunded mandate, but just, one of my favorite things.
I hear you.
So that's the plan. That's the gist of it.
My driveway is an unfunded mandate for my brother-in-law.
Okay. And there's that.
No. Carol does the steps. Michael does the plowing with his Jeep. All right, we do have 3 comments of no comment from Abaca Conservation and Westchester County Planning. We do have 1 comment from Mr. Kopstein saying that we should consider requiring commercial plowing companies to be licensed by the town, similar to other commercial entities. So if you're hiring, if you're a business and you're hiring, no, let's not use them.
Joe Schmo.
You're hiring Joe Schmo's
Pick
trash
me up.
service. They need to actually have a franchise license to work within the town of Yorktown. And it's not a bad idea, Jay. We could definitely-
Actually an excellent idea because we experience it constantly where, and I've pushed it back into people's private property. Come down Commerce Street, everybody's pushing out from Starbucks, they're pushing out from the medical building, they're pushing out from the bank, they're pushing everything across the road. And now you have those windrows. We go out, we make the roads black, and I go around and look at them, and after a few cars drive through them, it looks like we never plowed snow. So, but we do have in our town code that I have the ability to issue violations for that. And I've wanted to do that for the longest time. But I've been congenial. But my feeling is we've reached a point where next year, and people have been better because I stop and yell at them all the time in the middle of the night. So they'd rather not be yelled at. And I tell them what they're doing is illegal and we'll call the police on them. And then they clean it up nicely. But, I think we want to just make sure people understand that, you're endangering your other fellow residents when you do that. And you're a business in town and you're endangering residents. I don't know.
or your own customer base.
Or your own customers. Exactly.
All right.
So that's a fantastic idea.
In your
Thank
own
you, Jay.
liability pocket.
Yes, and your liability pocket.
I mean, I don't get it.
So we'll open the floor to public comment, if there is any. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Excuse me, Dan Strauss. Does this apply to businesses and residential? In other words, the people who have homes right along, let's say, 118?
It is business and residential.
Both.
Anyone that has a sidewalk adjacent to their property. Doesn't have to be in front of their house. Could be on the side of their house. That you're on a corner lot. You've got to keep that whole sidewalk free of snow and ice.
Residential and commercial?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you guys are making me work for it tonight?
Just a bit of a correction, not just commercial areas. Alex Mill Road, you get somebody who comes in and plows the driveway. That's a substandard road on a good day. Now you've got an accident waiting to happen, serious accident, or David got to replow it 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
Couple of NOVs written, and it'll self-correct.
That's
Thank you.
notice of violation for those of you without the
Without the NOV language.
the background.
It's like when I have to Google my teens when they text me. I'm like, wait, what does that mean? I got to Google J.
Sarah Wilson again. Just wanted to ask, under the prior law, it was 24 hours.
No. The prior law was when they created the snow removal districts, there was a separate contingency in the law for commercial commercial places that said they only had to keep those sidewalks free from ice and snow from 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening, which is an absurdity because go right down Commerce Street. Forget the restaurants because not everyone's done at 6 o'clock, right? Forget, 7-Eleven. Forget you're going to get some money out of your bank, God forbid, because you're going to slip on a sidewalk and break your neck because it was a convoluted scenario when it was passed many years ago.
Yep.
And it was passed, as my understanding is, as a result of a lot of political pressure.
Yes.
Period.
Amen. I will say amen to that because I was supervisor at the time, and it was a poorly conceived idea.
Okay, I mean, when I read it, it said it's the duty, of every parcel, right, that it has to be cleared within 24 hours.
Correct.
It is in the new law, but the old law was 12 hours. So we're saying instead of clearing in 12 hours.
Would you rather not have the extra time?
Well, I would
Or
think we
would you-
want to make the sidewalks
Safe
walkable
as quickly as possible.
as quickly as possible. So
Correct.
why not keep it at 12 hours? Is that really a hardship?
I don't see that as an issue. Adam?
No, I mean, look, you may be away, you may not practically be able to do it in 12 hours.
Well, I think the issue becomes when you start to bifurcate it like that, where now are you talking about residential? When you're mentioning you want to keep your sidewalks clear for your businesses, that's not residential. So a person in a residential area might have different capabilities than a person in a commercial area.
Or there might be an ice storm coming, so you want to leave a little bit of snow.
Correct.
So that the ice can attach itself to a little bit of snow.
Who
so when
thinks
you
like
shovel,
that?
I know. I talked to the highway supervisor a lot about understanding what's more effective. Hence why sometimes like the schools will be off and people will be like, why are the schools off? There's barely any snow. Well, I need that little bit so that the ice can attach itself. If not, by the time I remove that, and Jay's looking at me, there's going to be more than a notice of violation because you're going to have black ice throughout and then you can't lift it.
No.
So then you're damaging the actual
Oh yes, I
asphalt.
think that's a fair.
Yeah, our intention is to try to get the sidewalks cleared
Correct.
and safe as
Well,
quickly as possible.
even on
so-
East Main Street, kids
Yeah.
that are walking to the high school, kids that are going to mass, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Or adults going to mass. You want to have them done
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. So I think that would be a very good idea. Make it 12 hours. What are you mumbling about over there?
No, however, we're going to remove 216.
So I
now
just
we're
want to be clear because there's 2 public hearings. One is on
Well, we've just
chapter
melded them together.
was chapter 216, and the other one is chapter 250. 250 you're eliminating, which is what's in the code now.
Correct.
216 was removed a long time ago. However, General Code never took it out of the code, but that has been clarified and taken care of now. So what you're discussing now is putting chapter 216 back into the code
Back into play.
and removing 250, and that has a 24-hour cleanup period
Okay.
on it.
Gotcha. Fine. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
any other public comment? Okay, motion to close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I think this is. Hearing. Thank you. So we close the hearing here, so I'm fine voting on this. Anyone have an issue?
Well, are you making the change to 12?
Yes, please.
You can't vote on it tonight.
You want to do 18?
You can't change it at all and vote on it today.
You know, I would say though, Adam, just from a point of view of snowstorms, say it starts snowing heavily at 5 o'clock at night. Now it's 5 a.m. I'm a business owner that opens at 11. Am I getting fined because I haven't done it within 24 hours or within 12 hours? Is Dave there knocking on my door when I get in to give me a ticket?
Or I'm a homeowner and I didn't get up yet for my coffee at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that's the reason we ended up with all this convoluted situation.
When
here.
does the stopwatch start?
When it stopped.
At the end of the event.
It says after the precipitation has concluded.
All right. All right. We could change it.
Well, that should be like 3 hours.
All right, so we'll change it to 12. We won't vote on it, and we'll be able to move forward.
Problem is, though, it does start and stop, start and stop, start and stop. I'm just saying.
All right.
Look, hurry up and take your time is one of those things. Nobody says that anymore.
Public
Geez,
Do the right
really,
thing.
Luciano, I wasn't aware of that.
Public hearing to amend chapter, so we're going to hold that over.
And change
we'll-
the 24 hours to 12.
Yep.
And
Public
just please take care of
hearing
your sidewalk.
to consider amending chapter 250 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown entitled Streets and Sidewalks regarding the deletion of Article 6, Snow and Ice Removal in its entirety. Dave?
You have the copy of the law that, no, that's your, that's your advertising. So this was the previous law before the snow removal districts, am I correct?
No,
Right, so
No, this
we,
was
250 is
for
the
the snow.
districts, right?
before, oh,
Yeah,
250 was with the district.
is with the districts.
right, so I don't want the districts in.
Right,
We're good, right?
So we're removing the
So we're
districts.
removing that. yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We have the same comments, actually. So thank you for the folder. But Abaca, Conservation, and County say not our business. And Jay says franchise them out.
Well, that's the thing, that part of that,
License.
Yeah,
part
I'm
of
sure
that is also that residents need to understand, they can go and hire whomever they want to plow their driveways, but they're gonna get the ticket. The person plowing the driveway is not gonna get the ticket, because they don't care. They won't spend the extra, and I've timed it, it's less than a minute and a half to do 2 sweeps down the road and push that off the road. They would rather run to the next job and make extra money. So, you know what, if the resident gets ticketed once, they'll make sure that
they'll
their
learn.
people do the right thing.
And Dave, when we start to license, perhaps we could have a sheet drawn up for the clerk that this is the responsibility.
Yes. Yep.
And it goes with the licensing.
With the licensing, when they get the license.
Good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea.
For snow plowers?
No, we do not.
Well, that's a suggestion that we do.
Okay, well, when
If-
you do, then
When we
we'll
do,
talk
then
about
we'll do that, yes. You weren't listening to the comments from the
Oh, I
public?
heard you. I ignored you.
You ignored me.
She was buzzing out.
All right,
Doesn't
anyone?
want to manage another $25 check-in
any,
adulting.
any public comment on this? Once, twice,
Motion.
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
So motion to close the public hearing.
follow up with Diana. on
We have a
licensing.
motion now to adopt.
This one, do we have a motion to adopt?
To re-
The
Why don't you
the-
wait? Why don't you
to-
wait and adopt them the same day?
Oh.
So that you're not removing parts
Yeah,
of the
this is just
code
to
without-
remove.
It could snow
Sounds good.
tomorrow.
All right.
Can we just adopt the removal?
If it snows tomorrow, I'm moving, so.
You and me both. You'll see
Happened
my,
before.
you'll see my taillights in front of you. It happened last week. You kidding?
Yeah, I saw some snow in the morning.
All right,
I woke up and clean my car.
okay,
My
so
Picasso does
next up, public hearing to consider amending chapter 275 of the Code of Town of Yorktown entitled Vehicle and Traffic by adding a 4-way full stop on Quinlan Road at the northwest and southeast corners. So we currently have, coming off of London, we have, so that would be the, oh, geez.
London would be the northwest,
Northeast
north
and the
east and
southwest.
southwest. Yes.
So now we're gonna hit the other two corners
Make it a 4-way stop.
and make it a 4-way stop. Are those gonna be blinking lights, Dave?
Well, the others are.
Good.
So
All right.
I hate to put us in a litigious situation where, well, how come you didn't have blinking lights over here?
And talk
And
about.
I've already ordered them. So.
You want to talk about that real quick, or
Yes, so there have been a lot of accidents at this particular intersection, and the majority of which have been people that are traveling east and west on London Road. Actually, just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, I believe, this weekend, a car got flipped over there, and what had happened was someone was heading west on London, went to make the left turn onto Quinlan, going up the hill, and the car was way up at the top of Quinlan. It's a good sight line. It's about a 700-foot sight line, probably the best in the state, and not the state, in the town, certainly. And the person behind them saw them go and didn't even bother looking and just went out, and the car came down, boom, hit him, flipped him over, and, we've done everything we could. We've put up the flashing lights. We've put up the cross traffic does not stop signs. So they're not stopping coming down. And you know what? It's just, I think we've had so many accidents there that we need to do, everything within our power to try and avoid that. And I think I can't say that this will help if people don't pay attention, but sometimes
You might have to just make it a walking zone.
well, I've discussed it with Mr. Kopstein because he has a quite a good background in this, and you can't. He had a point, and correct me if I'm incorrect, but when you have a four-way stop, now it becomes optional.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, they're going to stop. Don't worry about it, right?
All right. Well, you could get up and speak when Mr. Kopstein, if you could save it for the mic, or since Dave called on you in advance.
You can put 4 stop signs up. You can put 8 stop signs up.
If you don't stop, you
They
can have an
can
accident.
flash or not. If the people don't stop, the accidents are going to happen. If it's an accident-prone location, it requires pen to paper.
So the rules at a 4-way stop is everyone stops, right? Slows down. Hopefully they're doing that anyway.
The rule at a 2-way stop is you stop at the stop sign and then you proceed cautiously. If somebody is involved in an accident, one person has the right of way, the other person's got a stop sign. If there's an accident there, the person who was at the stop sign and then failed to yield to the oncoming traffic is automatically at fault.
Yeah, but a young driver also understands, to be cautious when you do stop. You can't just assume it's your turn to go, because I've seen that happen at that stop sign too, where the young kid goes in and then the other person thought it was there was an understanding they were going, and now we have an issue.
Well, you've got a different issue there, and you have.
Well, the driver's ed guy's there.
You've got very young drivers, and you have older drivers who regularly misinterpret speed and distance. So they think they have enough time, and they don't, because that's a misinterpretation. But if everybody is conditioned to stopping at the stop sign, and based on what Dave has said, I went up there myself, because coming down Quinlan in the wintertime, you may slide into an accident. I didn't see a single car stop either east or west on London. Not one car. And I sat at the side of the road watching. Just that simple. I don't care how many signs you put up.
I always say it, you can't legislate away from bad behavior.
Yeah.
I've said it 1,000 times, and we'll continue to. I will open the floor for public comments, and Stan is biting at the bit.
I usually agree with Jay, but I don't agree with him on this. I live over that way. Plenty of people stop there. Okay, there's a 4-way stop with flashing at Gomer and London. There is an occasional accident there. Occasional. People do stop. I don't feel that it's appropriate to pick on young drivers and old drivers in this situation. The people who don't stop are people who are driving Beamers and Audis and middle-aged people.
Why are
So
we
don't
picking on
pick,
that?
so don't
Why are
pick
you
on the
picking on
old
them?
and the young on this deal. It's
Hope nobody's talking
everyone.
No, it is everyone.
Everyone. Period.
There's not just one audience.
Period. And there are not a ton of young drivers or old drivers over in that area that I've seen. I drive there. Coming down Quinlan, I said it at a previous meeting, is not a big deal in terms of the slope. If you, at Gomer and London, if you come over the slope coming down London to that intersection, there is no sight line, and it's a steeper slope going in there. There's no issues in the winter with sliding over there, and they, as far as I'm concerned, none of the accidents in history at London and Quinlan have been involved with snow and ice and people sliding. It's exactly what Jay or Dave just said, what they do at that stop sign. The people who are on London do not respect the fact that people are crossing on Quinlan from either direction. They do not respect that. And I will make this comment. At Crystal Lake, again, where I drive, there is a sign that says, "Look twice, save a life." And that is the best sign, as far as I'm concerned, of traffic safety.
I never see traffic there.
Nobody looks twice when they come to that sign, the stop sign. I am all in favor of putting a four-way stop. You could say, yeah, it doesn't matter how many, but I believe that a four-way will correct the issue at that intersection with the blinking lights. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
We agree on that.
Howard Gould.
Hey, Howard.
Hi. I say take it one step further, but my way is going to be more expensive and probably not very popular. I say put up a traffic light with the with a photograph taking the picture of the license plate, and then let the board vote on how they want to handle that stop.
I think it becomes his
Use
job.
that use that as an example, and take it from there. It's just an idea.
Thanks, Howard.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you.
I have a question I'd like to ask Dave.
Let's finish with
Oh,
the public.
all right.
Anyone else from the public for comment? Motion to close the
Motion.
public. Oh,
Hold on,
right,
hold on.
right.
Hearing.
Hearing.
There's an intersection on 118 and 129 that for a long time was very problematic, and a traffic light was put there. And it's close to where I live. I've observed that intersection many times. There are far fewer accidents now. I don't know whether it's much more expensive to put up a traffic light than a blinking light, but I think that I agree with Howard's point that maybe that should be considered.
Dave, about $90,000 price difference?
265.
Oh, okay.
Let's look at
265,000 for
where
a
Mr.
traffic
Hickens
light.
said that light was put in because of the construction on the Taconic
That's right.
and all of the detour traffic. It led to meeting the warrants to have the light put in. It was pushed by Stu Glass. When the construction was finished, the state went to take that light down. Stu prevailed on them to leave it up, even though it doesn't meet the requirements under the traffic manual, and the state just turned a blind eye. A traffic signal at Quinlan and London does not meet the traffic warrants, and the vehicle and traffic law at the current time would prohibit putting a camera there in any event.
Howard Gould, how about this idea then? How about putting a traffic circle in that area?
Not enough roadway, but
Well,
All
let's
right.
expand.
I don't know if the neighbors would want us doing a traffic circle in their front yards, because that would be the expansion.
I think it's becoming so complicated.
It's not.
Everything becomes complicated.
Welcome to life.
Mr. Paganelli proposed a viable solution which is duplicated only a quarter of a mile or a half a mile away at Gomer and London. It's been there for years, and I believe the situation would be remedied by doing exactly what Mr. Paganelli has suggested. A traffic light, did you say $200,000 more?
265.
255?
65.
Okay, thank you. That's a no-go. And a circle, those have been proposed right downtown, and they say we can't have them in the Heights section, which I dispute, but it does not warrant a traffic circle at Quinlan and London. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will point out, Mr. Strauss, I understand that you agree with Mr. Paganelli, but everyone else in the audience does have the right to have their voices heard. As Mr. Kopstein did point out, current traffic laws would prohibit both the traffic light from the amount, and it would prohibit the camera. The reason why, anytime you want to use camera identification for vehicular traffic law, there needs to be a specific law passed within the town, and we do not have that. And within the state has, but we don't have in the town. And as for traffic circles, the reason that they can't fit in town is they need to be a certain radius to be able to take a fire vehicle, an apparatus, around the circle. We don't really have the land in these areas, especially in the downtown areas. It was looked at especially at 202 and 11835, that whole intersection there, and we're still short a bunch of feet for that. So while it's, the ideas of them are there, there's a specific science to traffic circles, there's a specific science to traffic lights, and we just don't meet those. Howard?
How congested is that area as far as cars go traveling through that area? That's my first question.
Not as busy as like 118 and 202.
Because I was going to suggest, and I'm going to I don't want to assume, how about congestive pricing for cars that go through? This way you get the money and then eventually build the traffic
So we're just
lights.
tolling people for driving on that block.
No,
Yeah. Maybe then they'll avoid it and go to another.
I agree. I'd
And then
like
we
to
have it
charge all the people from Mayapack and Pup Valley who come down East Main Street.
Or how about
and
better
I'll
yet,
pave, I'll
Route
pave every road in this town
All right.
every 5 years.
Or how about
Okay,
Route
guys,
6 and
guys,
Route
we
202?
still have another hearing.
I'll stop.
Thank you.
Ed, I have a
Oh, now we're beating a dead horse. Let's just
Yeah, come on.
call for a vote,
I'm
please.
just going to make one more comment because, Mr. Lachterman, you have explained about the traffic circles. I believe that there could be traffic circles, and I believe, as I have said before on some occasions, that traffic studies are flawed. I believe that there is room, because I have seen other areas up in Dutchess County where the parameters that you're talking about are no larger than would be required. That's my opinion again, so I'm going to make that comment since you made the comment about what has transpired. So I will make a
That's fine,
comment in my defense, okay?
That's fine, and I just go by the studies that we have.
what the fire
And I
department
know
says.
I know where you're talking about, going down into Poughkeepsie, I believe you're talking about.
But even if you go to LaGrange, they have it too.
All right, yeah, all right.
Ed,
So,
I have a question.
Susan, go on
Yeah,
with your question,
this is
Dave.
a question for Dave. I have no problem with the four-way stop sign.
That's good because I'd rather you not be the person in court when something goes wrong. That's my feeling.
My question is this, because I do use Quinlan Street, and I did an experiment recently after you brought up the four-way stop sign. At the crest of the hill, I clocked and I was doing 30 miles an hour, okay? And then I didn't put my brake on, and I went down to London, and I hit almost 40 miles an hour. So my question is, would it be necessary or advisable to put a warning sign
Yes.
up there saying stop sign?
That's part of the traffic plan.
Stop sign ahead, okay.
Yes.
Just so people know that, okay.
Stop, it'll be the generic sign with the little stop sign on it with a little arrow, which basically, no matter what language you're speaking, it says stop ahead.
Good, thank you, that would
So
be
you're
helpful.
speeding, Susan.
And then it'll say.
You got
you're
that,
speeding.
right?
Put
Then
the
it'll
brake
say
on.
you're speeding, Susan, underneath.
Well, I know,
Susan-
Watch out.
Arriving soon.
no, I know to be on my brake as I'm coming
Be
down.
on my brake, so she
Because
rides her brake.
I'm concerned, and I have seen people stop at London, but you never know. So I'm cautious as I get to the intersection, but that's why I was concerned that people not being familiar with the street should know that there's a stop sign ahead. That was,
We had
yeah,
that same
thank you, yeah.
experience on Strawberry Road.
So
We put the three-way stop there at Foothill.
Yeah,
if I could have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then I think we could vote on this. So motion to
Motion.
get this,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan, I agree with you. It's going to be learned behavior,
All right.
3 to 6 months.
Public hearing to consider a stormwater management permit and a wetland permit application submitted by Hernan Ugana for the proposed expansion of residence and driveway for premises located at 354 Alden Road, Yorktown, New York.
Here's the notice.
Notice, and here's our comments. So we have,
Hi. Welcome back.
hi. We have Abaca, no comment. We have county planning outside of their jurisdiction. We have our town engineer, to the town engineer, sorry, from the Conservation Board, that the board has no objection to the proposed addition. Stormwater management plan appears to be handling the increase in impervious surface, and the engineering department will have final approval of the stormwater management. We do have comments from New York City DEP. So with this, the submitted plans show a sewer connection for the new residence, yet the EAF states that the property will utilize a septic system. Additionally, it appears the parcel is located within the Peekskill Sewer District. Please have the applicant clarify the discrepancy between the EAF and the site plan.
Well, the sewer permit is approved. It's already have a permit from them. So when we started the project, I didn't know was a sewer there.
Septic.
No, sewer.
Sewer. But there is a sewer there, so we.
Step a little closer to the microphone, I'm sorry.
When we start to put in the addition, I mean, we started the project. There was we didn't know there was a sewer there. So, but somehow we find out there is a Peekskill District sewer there. So we got already the sewer permit and the.
Okay, Dan, could you come up a second too?
Yeah, we heard about this stuff.
Diana, thank you. Good evening. So we can hook up to the sewer there?
Yes, the line was actually partially installed. There was another property that ran multiple lines from Alden Road to the Farm Walk pump station.
All right.
And I believe we did issue the sewer permit, so it's.
Did we get a clarification to DEP based off their letter? Because I think that went to you, didn't it?
Probably, but.
Can we do that, please, so DEP is aware and they could make I would hate for it to be registered wrong within the county.
No problem.
I appreciate
Dan,
that.
there's already a spur there, no cutting of the road. That road was paved 3 years ago.
You're not touching the road, Dave. Relax.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I think that Alden Road is in the Halleck's Mill Sewer District, there's no question. but a very smart property owner, going back many, many years, on the north side of Alden, knew enough to get into the Peekskill district so he could hook up to Farm Walk in his backyard. And you're the benefit of that.
Yeah, so you probably have that hookup because it was already
That's
prevented.
why, although the street is Halleck's Mill, your property and maybe the adjacent one, because a very smart homeowner got into the sewer district, the Peekskill district.
Dan, how much of a disturbance into the wetlands are we talking about?
It's very minimal because they previously had run the sewer line most of the way. So it was just in the woods. I forget how many feet in, but it's before the DEC because the wetlands in the back, technically all the, for the most part, this parcel is in the buffer. So that's what sort of triggered the DEC review of this application.
So from here, if we grant the stormwater management and wetland permit applications, they still are waiting for DEC?
Yeah, I mean, just do it subject to.
DEC approval.
DEC approval, right.
Okay. We'll open the floor for public comment. If you'd like, you come right up to the microphone, introduce yourself.
Maria Morera. I am the owner of the sewer line that they are referring to. They say that they have a permit to connect to the sewer, but I am the owner. So I would like to know how you could get a permit without my permission.
Daniel?
So the sewer lines are installed in easements, so I don't know if there was some deal made back when, but, the lines were installed through easements and are not on her property. So these.
They're in an easement, which is no longer the property owners. It's
Right, and I think, the easements were granted, I think, in consideration of providing the pipes, because that parcel did not have the right to cross this property to get to the Farm Walk pump station.
So who owns the pipe? No, I think
Well,
Farm Walk
I mean,
owns
it's,
the-
well,
An easement could be placed, right? That it would be a shared.
unless there's some agreement that, my guess would be that in consideration of the easement, the owners of those properties agreed to, because if you provide an easement to someone, you're devaluing your property to some extent, that you've encumbered it now with this easement, that you can do certain.
Correct, but was there an exchange? Like, when you bought it, did you have to pay for it?
I had to pay for it about $80,000.
So you paid $80,000. Are you hooked up to the sewer?
Yeah, I'm the owner.
No,
So-
your property has the sewer, right? You're saying, right? So the line that it's hooked up to, so there's a main line that goes to the sewer, and then there's these places that goes to the house, to the sewer line. Right? No, I'm asking Dan.
I mean, they ran multiple pipes when they put the line in, which made sense, because the real expense is the trenching. The polyethylene pipe is very cheap, it's really not expensive.
No, I understand that. I guess
So,
what I'm
I
trying to
mean,
say is,
but-
are
but
you
the bu-
tapping
but-
into my extension?
No, there's individual pipes that were laid for each property that go to the pump station. So the issue really, is if there was an agreement that people, the person who installed it would be compensated in some fashion, then they should show it to us, but
Were you told that you could sell the sewer pipe?
No, I was never.
When you bought it and hooked up to it, were you told that you could buy it and then sell it? What were you told?
I think I was told that if someone wanted to connect to it, they needed to give some type of compensation because of the amount that I paid.
So my belief though would be, and Dan and Adam, you could
it sounds
opine
like
on this.
legalities.
No, so in order for the original owner to run the pipe, they had to go through people's property. So the value that was given was that easement. So they gave a portion of their land to be able to be used for a community sewer pipe. So that's why the spurs are there. And they already gave a value. It went to the original owner. So whoever put the pipes in there. So whoever told you you could charge for that, I believe, would be misinformed because you can't double dip into that. There was.
What I don't understand is, did you pay? She didn't pay 80,000. Were
Who-
you? When
who
you
did
bought-
you pay the 80,000
Yeah, when
to?
you bought your house, were you already on sewer?
The house was built from scratch.
Correct, but was it already on sewer or septic?
There was nothing there.
Lou,
It was land.
It was sewer. She
So
was
it
on-
was-
Lou,
but
Lou,
was-
if there's 4 houses, A, B, C, D.
Yeah, but guys, what I'm trying to say
She's
is-
in the last location.
But
so
at the
for-
end of the day, if I'm a developer and I'm gonna build a house, I either gotta give you septic or sewer. So I gotta hook it up. So if she bought that land for $36,000, then she paid $80,000 to bring the pipe that was there, that they used in all 4 parcels. They subdivided it, so the easement is now that these 4 parcels share that pipe, right? And then the $80,000 was part of your building costs for that pipe.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, Adam.
But that's all it was. It was a line item.
You can close the hearing, you can approve the permit subject to proof that they can access the sewer pipe. And if they can prove that they have access to the sewer pipe to make the connection, no problem. Gets
Well, the
issued.
easement is a proof. We would need to see proof that they would have
Well,
to
I haven't
pay.
seen it, so
Yeah.
I don't,
Okay.
you know, maybe not. is all I'm saying.
So Dan, can you get the information to
Did
Adam?
I have one more question. Is your developer the original developer of their home?
No.
So your contractor was on its own?
Yes.
Okay, no, it's a good point. I mean, like, because if I owned all 4, then I know where my easement is.
Yeah, what we'll do too is we'll do a quick title search and see, because that may have been one of the conditions of the easement, granting the easement in the first place. So then, you know, that would at least memorialize what the arrangement was between the owner of the lots that needed the sewer and the grantor of the
Wouldn't
easement.
that be on a site plan of some sort? Wouldn't that have to be filed?
Yeah, he just said he's gonna do it.
Dan, what
The
time?
easement would be filed.
Dan, what time frame are we
We're gonna
talking about?
check. We're gonna
Was
check
it
all this.
20 years ago?
We'll check
40
all
years
this.
ago?
Probably like 20 years ago.
All right.
Yeah, it's not ancient history. But we'll do some research and find out.
Any other public comment? Anyone? All right, so, motion to close.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So then, motion to approve pending, the research on the easement and the use of the pipe. Just be aware that it might come back that somewhere in the deed, there's a price that needs to be paid to hook up for that. And-
should be
And
recorded.
that would be recorded, and you'll be able to know that. So we could move from that. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Resolutions. From the Albert A. Capellini Community and Cultural Center, approve and waive fee for use of the Nutrition Center for 5 hours on Sunday, June 8th, 2025, for an event to honor families from the communities affected by the October 7th attacks in Israel. Approve and waive the fee for the use of gymnasium for 8 hours on Saturday, April 26, 2025, for Nostro Mercato di Yorktown. And that is for the Friends of Yorktown Parks and Recreation and the Yorktown Small Business Association's Marketplace. From the clerk's office, authorize the town clerk to advertise a bid to replace a black gold waste oil heater in central garage with an Energy Logic EL 200H waste oil heater. Dave, is that the burner that burns the oil from the cars?
Yes, we actually
Recycled oils?
replaced ours about 3 years ago.
Great. Authorize the town clerk to advertise a request for proposals for the procurement and installation of solar power systems on town buildings.
Ed, I have
Finally.
a question on this. After the Climate Smart Committee submitted the draft on this, I sent in a one-line, a slight change, and did you get that? Did you get that change?
I'm not sure, Susan.
It just had to do with changing something from the phase 2 to a phase 1. Had to do with one of the procurement issues.
Why don't you look at it before we put it out, and we could fix that.
All right,
Okay.
it was a minor thing, and when Bob DeAngelis, and I want to thank Bob personally for doing a lot of work on that with the committee, but he took the lead role. He said by the time it was too late for him to edit so Diana, I will send it to you tomorrow. I think it was just
just changing when a certain cost estimate had to be put in.
And Bob did it out of fear. You should have seen Sarah at the last meeting. Vicious, vicious. From the Community Housing Board, approve a representative from the Community Housing Board to attend the Hudson Valley Affordable Housing Summit in White Plains at a registration cost of $65. And a good representative, and Maura Gregory going to that. From the Engineering Department, authorize the supervisor to sign agreement with Collier's Engineering and Design for assistance with the Route 118 Underhill Avenue intersection project.
I have a question on that one also. When is the town board going to discuss which options? There were about 6 different options in that second bid.
We should have that by the next meeting.
So, because one of the some of the costs in this is for work that Collier's has already done, but before it also includes working on the current bid that's still outstanding. But he can't design anything until the town board tells him which options we're going to be
We're
doing.
waiting for DOT for some feedback. So as soon as we get that, we'll be able to move forward, and we hope to have that by the next meeting. Okay. But we do have some bills that need to be paid on it, and this is effective, it's retroactive of back to May 1st of 2024.
Well, Unicorn is paying for it, yeah.
Yep, they've already put the money in, but we need to pay it. Authorize the supervisor to sign the stormwater maintenance agreement with Gino DiPaterio for property located at 3901 Crampon Road, Savannah's Restaurant. Approve parcel 35.08-1-27 Old Crampon Road to be included in the Westchester County's Peekskill Sanitary Sewer District, the Hunter Brook Sewer District, and Hunter Brook 202 Extension District. And this is for someone to be able to hook up to the sewer. And it was voted by the County Board of Legislators, as it would have to go through, and that is there. Diana, is that the Garden Lane?
Yes, it is.
Garden Lane, yep. Approve parcel tax ID 26.08-1-60, 841 Kipling Drive to be included in the Halleck's Mills Sanitary Sewer District. Authorize the comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the Highway Department, and that is $142,656.80 from fund balance to drainage for
Highway fund balance.
highway fund balance. Yes, thank you. To highway drainage. See, I was going to take it out of the Mohegan Lake Improvement District, but
I was
because
hoping
Ken
you
was
would.
getting ready to leave. So
I was afraid you were making a mistake.
and that is to do the precision trenchless for pipe relining on Hill Boulevard rather than trying to dig up the road, and that will actually save us how much, Dave? About
22,000.
Yep.
And time.
And a lot of time.
2 to 3 days instead of 3 to 4 weeks.
And a lot less traffic interference.
Yes.
Authorize the comptroller to establish the following capital project and process the following budget transfer for the engineering department, and that's the Underhill Avenue Route 118 intersection improvement, and that's going back to October 30th, 2024, and that's from revenue collected from Unicorn Contracting for engineering costs. Authorize the comptroller to pay Thomas Galello the cash value of unused time as of his date of retirement, as enumerated below. Authorize the comptroller to pay Ryan Hurd the cash value of unused time as of his date of resignation, as enumerated below. And then we also, for both of those, have the resolutions for the comptroller to do the transfers that are enumerated with each one. From the Highway Department, authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with the Precision Group for the pipe relining on Hill Boulevard in the amount of $142,656.80. From the John C. Hart Memorial Library, authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Schindler Elevator Corporation for elevator maintenance. And from the Mohegan Lake Improvement District, award the bid for biological treatments to Lake Mohegan to Lake Savers LLC DBA Everblue Lakes, and that's a 3-year maximum cost. that's broken down in the resolution. Hopefully this is a good fix, Ken, for now. We'll see. From the Planning Department, acknowledge receipt of the draft SECRA finding statements received from 800 East Main Street redevelopment project. And from the Water Department, authorize the comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the Water Department, and that is $161,351 to the water, from water special projects to the water meter project line for the purchase of meters and meter equipment from Core and Main LP, and that is part of our testing program on some of the very old meters that people realize it's not worth testing. I think they're up to about 25, but we'll get a report when Mr. Waterhouse is back in office. And can I have a, oh, actually, we have one more. Yep. Motion to advertise, or to, I'm sorry, put out for referral, law addressing the Peekskill O&M sewer district.
Well, and also advertise and schedule the public hearing.
Yes, and schedule a public hearing for May 13th.
And is that also to change?
Is that gonna work?
To amend section, chapter 240.
Yeah, that's the law, yeah.
Well, he just said Peekskill O&M, but
Yeah,
it's more than, it's to amend.
240-8.
Yeah, it's to amend chapter 240, which deals with how the operating costs
All right,
are
so
charged.
can I have a motion on all of those?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Favor.
Aye. And then can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Oh my gosh, yes, motion.
Second.
All in favor?
It's
Good night,
10 o'clock,
Yorktown.
Yorktown.
Thank you all.